Okay, so I'll start over. Good morning, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order. I'm not sure who on the staff side is going to represent staff, but can somebody verify? I think you can visually verify who is at the meeting. If you want a roll call, we could do that as well. But
yeah, we should have a roll call vote. I mean, a voice roll call.
Okay, then would you call roll?
Absolutely. Chair Bauer?
Present.
Vice Chair Shepard?
Present.
Board Member Bernstein? Absent. Board Member Kohler? Absent. Board Member McKinnon? Board Member McKinnon?
Oh, present. Can you hear me now?
Board Member Pease?
Here.
Board Member Wimmer?
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
Okay, to begin the meeting, I need to read this information into the record. So pursuant to the provisions of California Governor's Executive Order number N2920 issued on March 17th, 2020, to prevent the spread of COVID-19, this meeting will be held by virtual teleconference only with no physical location. The meeting will be broadcast on cable TV channel 26 and live on the MidPenn Media Center at midpennmedia.org. Members of the public who wish to participate can do so by email, phone, or computer. To ensure participation in a particular item, we suggest calling in or connecting 15 minutes before the item you wish to speak on. For written communications, please send an email to hrb@cityofpaloalto.org. That City of Palo Alto is all one word, no spaces.org. Spoken comments via computer will be accepted through the Zoom teleconferencing meeting. To address the board, go to zoom.us//join. The meeting ID number is 935-2189-4451. You'll be asked to enter an email address and name. We request that you identify yourself by name as this will be visible online and will be used to notify you that it's your turn to speak. When you wish to speak on an agenda item, click the raised hand at the bottom middle of your screen on Zoom. You'll see by moving your cursor to the bottom middle of your screen, there'll be a participants tab. If you click on that, you will then be able to see the raise hand tab. The moderator will activate and unmute speakers in turn. When called, please limit your remarks to the time limit allotted. A timer will be shown on the computer to help keep track of your time. Spoken public comments using a smartphone will be accepted through the Zoom teleconference meeting. To address the board, download the Zoom app onto your phone from the Apple App Store or Google Play Store and enter the meeting ID 935-2189-4451. Please follow the previous steps that I've just described. Spoken public comments using a phone call at 1-669-900-6833 and enter the meeting ID number 935-2189-4451. When you wish to speak on an agenda item, hit *9 on your phone so that we know that you'll wish to speak. You'll be asked to provide your first and last name before addressing the board. You'll be advised how long you have to speak. When called, please limit your remarks to the agenda item and time limit allotted. You can also find this information on the last page of our agenda for today's meeting. To better facilitate public comments at the beginning of the meeting, our host, Vin, will identify each person with a raised hand by name or the last 4 digits of your phone number and request that you state your name and agenda item you wish to speak on. If you wish to speak under any item not on the agenda, please state your intent to speak under oral communications, which will be up next. When it's your time to speak during public comment, you'll be identified and provided 3 minutes to speak. Any callers with blocked numbers will wait until the end of the speaker's portion. The host will unmute them one at a time and all will be asked to speak. So that's the public announcement. A couple of Zoom tricks. One, as Jody told us earlier before the meeting began, if you would leave your mics muted so that background noise wherever you are will be minimized, you can then just hit the space bar and hold it to speak and then let go of it and it will put you back in mute. You can also use your cursor. So let's move to oral communications. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to speak on any item that is not on the agenda. There'll be 3 minutes per speaker. Vin, could you please explain the procedure you use again for us?
Yes, so we'll go through the speakers one by one, people who have raised their hands or people who have previously identified they have public comments. So right now I do see another member of the public with a hand raised, and it is a caller with the last 4 digits, 1000. Excuse me. I will unmute you now so you can identify which agenda item you want to speak on.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Hello. Hello, Chair Bauer. This is Martin Bernstein, member HRB, and I've been present since 8:30. I pushed *9 when the meeting started, and so I am present.
Okay, let me go ahead and promote you to panelist.
Great, nice to have you here, Martin.
You're welcome.
Anybody, Vin, do you see any other people that are asking to speak?
We have no more public comments at this time, but Martin, it looks like I can't promote you. I'm not sure if it's because it might be because
okay,
you're calling from Zoom. So
let's see, I'm on my iPhone. Okay.
Well, we'll leave you as an attendee, but I'll keep you unmuted so you can still speak at any time.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, Chair Bauer, with no more public comments, we may proceed with the agenda.
Good, thank you, Vin. Let's move on to agenda changes, additions, or deletions. I think we'd like to make one change in the order of the agenda. Amy, you and I talked about that.
Yes.
Okay, so do we need to move the entire comment section up, or can we just have this one comment?
Well, if you would like to give a report now and delay the other reports till after item 3, that would be acceptable.
Okay, I'd like to do that. What I'd like to do is recognize a very important historic preservationist in Palo Alto's history. And Debbie, can you talk a little bit about Millie Mario?
Yes. So we just wanted to acknowledge the passing of Millie Mario. She died in Florida on April 17th. She served as chair of the HRB for 8 years in the 1990s. So I learned in the Palo Alto Weekly, because I didn't have the pleasure of knowing her, that she came here with her husband Ernie in 1993. And they're probably most widely known because they purchased the John Adams Squire House, which would become Millie's most ambitious and successful restoration project. A 1904 classical revival landmark once owned by the city and the subject of fierce political battles for decades, the house avoided the wrecking ball more than twice. Millie's award-winning transformation of that supposed white elephant into one of the city's most beautiful private residences led to her appointment to the HRB. She also served on the board of Palo Alto Stanford Heritage and the Palo Alto Historical Association. And most interestingly, she joined the board of the California Preservation Foundation. That's the statewide historic preservation advocacy and education organization. And she eventually served as its president. So anyway, I hope this acknowledgement gets to many in the community who remember her and also to her family. Thank you.
And we extend our sympathies to the family and just wanted to recognize how important Millie was to historic preservation in Palo Alto. So now we'll go back to our agenda. Our next item is city official reports, agenda item number 1, which is HRB scheduled meetings. Amy, you probably can speak to that.
Sure. So this is our meeting for May. We have been limiting our meetings to once per month at most, just because the number of items that we get on the HRB are not as many as some other boards and commissions. So looking at the schedule, the month of June, because of some absence, I'm targeting, if we have an item, June 25th. So far, we do not have an item. I'm looking at July, considering taking a break in July. It is summer and council takes a break. For August, looking at the 13th as our one meeting. Again, we don't have an item just yet. Then September 10th would be the September meeting. We have 2 options for October, the I think 8th or the 22nd. One date for November that would work, which is November 12th, and one date for December, which is December 10th, due to the obvious holidays in those months.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm going to be available for every single meeting this year because all of my trips have been canceled.
Oh.
But I'll survive. Okay. Thank you for that. And I'm sure you'll let us know when the meetings are going to be scheduled. Next up is study session. I don't think we have a study session planned for today. So we can then move to agenda item number 2, which is, oh, wait a minute, I've got these. 235 Hamilton, Cardinal Hotel. So let me read the official description. This is a public hearing, quasi-judicial. The Cardinal Hotel at 235 Hamilton Avenue, which is 20 PLN-00024. It's a request for the historic designation reclassification from a local historic resource category 3 to a category 2 of the Cardinal Hotel located within the National Register of Historic Places, Ramona Street Architectural District. Environmental assessment, there's no project under California Environment Quality Act and CEQA guidelines per section 21065. The zoning district is CD-C, GF-P in parentheses. Downtown commercial with ground floor and pedestrian shopping combined district. For more information, you can contact Amy French at amy.french@cityofpaloalto.org. Okay.
Thank you, David.
Let me start before you begin, Amy. Are there any disclosures from board members? I will start by saying that I have visited the hotel many times, but not recently. Anyone else have any disclosures? I'm not seeing anybody speak.
Yeah.
So. Oh, Michael.
Yeah,
Mike.
we had a tour of the hotel by the project people sometime in March, I think it was. I went through the hotel, a site visit. Excuse me, that was the other hotel.
Right.
Cancel that.
Martin, I see your light.
Yes, thank you, Chair Bauer. So I've been in the hotel. I've been given a tour of the hotel, and I personally have given tours of the hotel. That's my disclosure. Thank you.
Good. All right. I'm seeing other people shaking their heads no. So Amy, why don't you begin with the staff report?
Yep. Okay. Well, today it's hotel day. We've got 2 hotels. The first being the Cardinal Hotel. This is item 2. The hotel was built in 1924, and it is historic inventory category 3 on our local inventory. It was put there in 1978. as a category 3. Then in 1985, it was put as a contributing resource to the National District. That's when the National District at Ramona was put into that category. The Cardinal Hotel is the first building that was built in the Ramona Street District. Per the historic resource evaluation prepared by Page and Turnbull in the fall of 2019, it is eligible as an individual resource under Criterion 1 and Criterion 3. It is designed by William Weeks in the Italian Renaissance Revival style. Burge Clark was the supervising architect, and it has been largely unaltered since 1944. It is just with its existing category eligible for using the California Historical Building Code and energy standards, as well as historic preservation incentives in the city's zoning code. It is a seismic category 2 building, and alterations based on the seismic issues have been in discussion so far, but there's no application submitted. The Cardinal Hotel is in, and I'll say what these are, the commercial downtown ground floor pedestrian zone. That enables a building such as this with a 2.83 FAR to apply for historic bonus for use on site up to the 3-to-1. But the applicant has not indicated interest so far in that. The applicant has indicated interest in potentially transferring bonus floor area off the site following rehabilitation. So this is in our code, Palo Alto Municipal Code section 1818-070, that allows the applicant to perform rehabilitation for both historic and seismic reasons and go through a process on that. But only the council can approve on-site use of such bonuses. Again, only up to the 3-to-1 FAR. The Cardinal Hotel, the reason it's eligible for California Register individual listing is for its role in Palo Alto's commercial development and its distinctive characteristics of a type, period, or method of construction. These are considered significant. It also meets all 7 of the aspects of integrity, as noted. The Cardinal Hotel has some alterations to date. The ground floor commercial spaces, storefront doors and display windows. Upper floor windows were replaced with original fenestration openings. But the intact features include the ground floor bulkheads, windows, and transoms, the window rhythms, and all original decorative facade details. The hotel lobby is special. It has craftsmanship from the American Arts and Crafts movement in the 1920s. And you can see there are still the retained flooring, ceiling, fireplace, and other items still intact. A stairway was clearly added at some point later on the right there. So we're looking to make the findings for the upgrade in inventory classification on the city's inventory. And the reasons being, it's the first commercial anchor for the Ramona Street Historical District. It's meritorious work of the architect and his supervising architect. It retains many character defining features, all 7 integrity aspects, and the original character is intact. And our consultant, Page and Turnbull, who is also a participant or watching the presentation today, has determined that it exceeds the criterion set forth for category 3 buildings and more appropriately classified as a local inventory category 2. So this is tentatively on the council agenda on consent for June 22nd. So I'll leave that slide up and turn it over to the applicant, who has images to share. Abba, are you participating?
Yeah.
We have Abba? Okay.
Yeah, good morning. Yes, I wanted to have the screen. When you want to.
I've ended Amy's screen share, so you can share your screen now. If you're unable to, I can also project it for you.
Okay, all right. Let me check and then I will start. So I will keep my video off because my internet here can be spotty. So thanks for understanding. Good morning, Chair Bauer, Vice Chair Shepherd. Good morning to all board members. I'm Abha Nehru and I work with Carrasco and Associates. I would like to first thank Amy and the city staff for their research and work on this project. I would also like to thank the board and staff for working through the pandemic and for organizing this online hearing. We all really appreciate that. To start with, I would like to introduce Stephanie Vancek. She is the general manager of Cardinal Hotel and is representing the owners. Vin, could you unmute her? She just has a few lines that she would like to say.
Sure, I'm sorry, can you say which name again?
Stephanie Vancek. Stephanie, could you raise your hand?
Okay, Stephanie, I have unmuted you. But you have to unmute yourself as well.
Yes, good morning. Are people able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, good morning, everyone. Thank you for your time again. To echo Abha, I just wanted to read a few words. It has been my pleasure to manage the Cardinal Hotel for the past 20 years. During its proud history since 1924, the Cardinal Hotel has hosted countless visitors to downtown Palo Alto. We proudly know the Cardinal to be a significant historic node since it was built. It was built to bring commercial development to Hamilton Street. It also became the scene of local community gatherings and dance events. The Cardinal Hotel continues its 95-year-old tradition to offer travelers visiting Palo Alto on business or leisure an experience noteworthy of remembrance. Global and domestic travelers visiting Palo Alto, Stanford, and the San Francisco Bay Area experienced the 1920s revival period while at the same time being part of today's Palo Alto. Guests who visit the Cardinal are constantly impressed with the thoughtful preservation of the hotel and the authentic experience of their stay. The Dahl family has owned this historic hotel since 1944 and have through the generations continued to preserve and celebrate its history. We look forward to hearing your feedback today regarding our proposal. Thank you.
Abha, you want to continue?
Yes, I'll continue. Thanks, Win. So on behalf of the Cardinal Hotel ownership, we are requesting that the Cardinal Hotel be designated as a Category 2 building in the Palo Alto Historic Inventory listing. It is currently listed as Category 3 building. So it's a visual landmark and anchor at the corner of Hamilton and Ramona, and is currently part of the Ramona Street Architectural District. It was built in 1924, designed in an Italian Renaissance revival style by the prolific California architect William H. Weeks in collaboration with the Burge Clark. It was the first hotel of its kind, and the builders spared no expense to make the Cardinal Hotel the last word in hotel buildings at that time. The image on the right shows how the Cardinal Hotel is anchoring the Ramona Street Architectural District at the corner of Hamilton and Ramona. I'll just walk you through the existing and the 1924 plans to show that not much has been altered over the years. This is the basement plan, which was in basement. They were primarily using it for storage, housekeeping, mechanical and utility rooms were there. And at one time, there was also a dance floor in the basement. But not much has changed since then, except for the fact that there's no dancing happening there. So we still have our utilities, server rooms, and storage at the basement. This is the current basement plan from 2020. This slide shows the first floor plan drawing from 1924. We've just outlined the lobby and the main entrances from Ramona and Hamilton, which was part of the main hotel reception and still is. The surrounding ground floor spaces are all retail, and they were designed as retail earlier, and they still are retail now. The shaded areas show the retail portions. We have an alley on this side, on the southwest side. The main entry being from Hamilton, and the secondary entry is from Ramona side. The legend here shows few changes that have happened over the years, and these primarily are glazing, doors or windows that have been replaced or repaired over time. The second and third floor plans are the guest floors, and this is a U-shaped on the second and third floors around the light well. The interior guest rooms get this light and air from this rectangular court here, and it will be more clear on the next image. So, and these rooms and these floors, both second and third floor, have not been modified or altered over the years. There's not been much change except for upgrade to bathrooms of tiles and plumbing. So I'll just breeze past these slides. These were just to show you that the second and third floor plans have remained intact. And so this is a roof plan, not much change, same as before. This is an elevation drawing of Hamilton Avenue from 1924. And the next image would show how this building looks like today, 2020 elevation. The notations here show that along Hamilton, the windows and glazing have been changed or repaired over time. There has been some added signage and fabric awnings, but the building primarily looks the same as it did in 1924. The next slide will show the Ramona drawing. Similarly, only the windows and glazing along this facade have changed over time. The windows on second and third floor have been replaced, but within the opening fenestration. This is the Ramona Street elevation from 2020. We have noted what has changed. There has been addition of neon sign, which wasn't there in 1924, but we think it was still added around later in 1920s because we see that in images from 1930 onwards. These are rare elevations. The only changes we see again are replacement windows, which are noted here. This is the West Alley elevation, where again, just the modification to windows, window replacement on second and third guest floors, and glazing replacement at the first floor corner here, where we have the Pace Gallery right now. So I just have a few more images to share with you. The hotel opened in December, but the formal opening of the hotel was on December 13th. And this was an article in San Jose Mercury Herald at the time announcing the grand opening of the hotel. This is how the building looked from the southeast corner from 1924. And if I take a black and white image now today, it would almost look the same. And this is a view, southeast view from 2020. There has been some addition of a neon sign and the flag posts are not there any longer, but the building looks the same. This is the Hamilton facade today. Here This image shows the material palette of stucco, terracotta, wrought iron, and we have clay tile at the top edge. There were shields designed in the spandrel panels between windows, and this is typical along Hamilton and Ramona facade. Horizontal band cores, reminiscent of those times, was used to separate the first floor from the two upper levels. This is the main Hamilton entry. It has spiral classical Corinthian columns at Hamilton entrance, and with a metal marquee over this entrance, and it's similar at the Ramona entrance. You can also see the stained glass transom window at the corner there next to the pilaster. And this, excuse me. The next image shows how the hotel lobby looked in 1924, and the hotel interior again has primarily stayed intact. If I were to take this image as a black and white image today, one probably would not be able to make out the difference, except that there was this stair added at some point, which goes to the mezzanine level. One last few images. This is the main stair. The left image shows the main stair from 1924. And we took the main stair image as a black and white for 2020. And there's no difference. The difference being only that today's picture is a little sharper. And my last slide, just want to conclude that the Cardinal Hotel was the first building constructed to attract commercial development to Hamilton and Ramona streets. It was followed by other contributing buildings that became part of the Ramona Street Architectural District. The character defining features of the building are substantially retained. It represents distinctive characteristics of style, period, and workmanship. The collaboration of William Weeks and Burge Clark shaped the path for the other buildings that followed in this district. And lastly, and most importantly, the owners wish to preserve this history for the future generations. I thank you for your time, and I will mute myself now and answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, so at this point, thank you very much for that presentation. It's a beautiful building, and it's remarkable how much of the original historic fabric is still there. I'd like to take at this point to have board members ask questions. Just questions. We'll have a discussion after that. Any board members have questions? I'm going to start by calling on people just to make it simpler. Kristen, any questions?
Not at this time.
Okay, Debbie?
No, thank you.
Okay, Mike?
No questions.
Okay, Margaret?
Yeah, I don't know if this is an appropriate question for this part of the meeting, but I'm just wondering why you considered moving it to a category 1? I think it's great that you're moving the category to a greater significance. I just was wondering why 2 and not go for category 1, just out of curiosity.
I think we asked Page and Turnbull to review this building. At that time, the methodology and the criteria they used, they thought it would fit the category 2 instead of category 1, that it would not meet the criteria set by the HRB board. So they made that call, and maybe Christina can address that. She's here attending the meeting.
Christina, can you respond if you want?
I was just going to interject. I mean, the difference between the category 1 and the category 2. A category 1 is an exceptional building. A category 2 is a major building. I mean, because this building hasn't had a lot of alterations, it's largely intact. It keeps its character. I mean, for me, it's kind of an exceptional building. So I'm just thinking, since you're going through this this effort to move it up, but maybe just the category 1 would obligate you to things that you don't want to be obligated to, because in that sense you could become, you know, a national level recognized building, which I think, I mean, I would be in support of that, just because I think it's such a landmark.
So Vin, Christina's on the attendee side, so needs to be unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm actually, so I wasn't the author of the historic resource evaluation, and I did review it, but I didn't see that we opined about category level. We were evaluating for the California Register. So I'm not sure if this was a separate conversation that my colleague had, perhaps with Amy. Amy might have more information about that, but I don't actually have anything to contribute about this. I'm sorry.
Okay, Amy, you have a comment?
Yeah, I don't recall a conversation suggesting that category 2 is the appropriate category. I mean, we have our, you know, Palo Alto Municipal Code, Chapter 1649, that has, you know, the findings or the categories. And yes, exceptional building is one of them, category 1. As a comparison, the President Hotel is also a category 2. Not a category 1, and we're seeing that later today. I think because there are rehabilitation features that could happen on this building, then the question would be, after those happen, is it then eligible for category 1? That would be a kind of a question that I would have. You know, category 1, how many category 1 buildings do we have in Palo Alto? That's a question I have. And what differentiates them from the category 2s? And I don't have an answer.
Okay, so I'd like to suggest that for today, let's just consider the change from category 3 to category 2, but I'm very interested in Margaret's suggestion, and it would be worth having another, looking at this issue at a different meeting. Not that the applicant needs to come, but we as a board could look at the definitions, look at the list of buildings that are category 1 and category 2, and then maybe think about changing the designation at that meeting. But for today, let's just focus on this change from 3 to 2.
Well,
Thanks,
and just
Margaret.
that, I just wanted to say one last thing. The board has discussed that at length before, but we've never made any changes to the categories 1 through 4. We were considering saying historic, non-historic, just having one category, but I mean, I still think that having 4 categories is good, and I think we should maybe have a workshop to take a closer look at the definitions.
Okay, great. Thanks, Margaret. Martin, do you have any questions?
Yes, and am I unmuted?
You are.
Yeah. My question would be to the owner or owner representative. Has the owner or owner representative considered raising it to category 1?
This is Abha responding. We had not considered it, but we can look into it. We'll have to talk with the owners. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, that's a no.
No, I'm not. I haven't talked to them, and this didn't come up at our meetings at all. So.
No, I understand. I'm not saying that you are not interested in it. I'm just verifying that you hadn't considered it. That's all.
Yeah.
So everybody has spoken. I have a couple of questions about just this detailed questions. You happen to know the age of that stair, when that stairway in the lobby was installed? Do you have any idea when that came?
No, at the top of my head, I do not, but it's been there now for a long time. Maybe Stephanie, the general manager of the hotel, knows when it was put in.
I'm asking because if it's over 50 years, it then becomes significant fabric. I think it's over 50 years because I remember it there when I was in high school. So
yeah, let me Meanwhile, check with her if she knows this.
It's just something to consider.
Yeah.
It's not
Okay.
really part of this. Okay, the next question I have is, I noticed that the building has extraordinary symmetry in its architecture, and that the awning for Osteria, a favorite restaurant of mine, really obscures those upper windows. I'm assuming those windows are still there. Is that the case? I think they are.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
That's correct. They are still there. We peeped inside those, to check. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if at some point in the future, you might consider removing that awning, which obscures that important, symmetric design. It's half of that Hamilton facade on the first floor. And that maybe there would be another opportunity for signage. Osteria has been there a very long time, and it's clearly recognizable and known in the community. I hope it remains there in this difficult time. But it's something I'm just suggesting that at a further or a future date, you might consider unmasking the windows. Okay.
Thanks for that comment. Yes, we are looking at that. Thanks, David.
Okay, great. Thank you. Those are all my questions. I guess if there are no further board member questions, I'll bring this back to the board for discussion. We will need to create a motion to move this forward and vote on it. So what we're being asked to do is to recommend that the building be reclassified from a contributing building category 3 to a major building category 2 resource on the historic inventory. So comments or discussion by board members? Let's see, I started with Kristen last time. Let me start with Martin this time, since you were at the end. Martin, any discussion?
None at this point.
Okay, let's see, how do we go through it? Margaret, I guess you're up next. Any discussion?
Yes. I mean, I'm just going to go back to my original comment about, I think this is an exceptional building. I think it's the cornerstone of the Ramona Street district. I think that Palo Alto doesn't have a lot of category 1 buildings. I think this is an opportunity for us to have, it's an exceptional building. And I don't know strategically if category 2 gives them more or category 1 limits them what they can do in the future. But I mean, I'm in support of it being moved up. I would also be in support or encourage them to investigate becoming a category 1. I mean, that could be a feather in Palo Alto's cap, having more historic buildings. I think this is a perfect, it's almost 100 years old, right? It was built in 1924. We're 4 years away from it being a 100-year-old building. I think it's time for Palo Alto to recognize that and to celebrate that. And I think it's an exceptional building. And I would encourage the applicant to not settle for category 2, because I clearly think it's a candidate for a category 1.
That's a good point, Margaret. I think that for today's consideration, we need to stay with the move from 3 to 2, because okay. I think, as I just mentioned, I think there's further investigation before we do that. I'm in support of looking at that and doing that.
Okay.
All right.
But
any other
I guess
comment?
If we have a motion and we all agree to move it up to a 2, I mean, is this just lost then, or is there? Can we just, I guess when we craft our motion, we can encourage them to investigate a category 1 in our motion, I guess.
Amy, do you have a comment on that?
I would just say, let's stay the course as you suggested, a category 2. That gets them into the flurry of bonus territory where they can, hopefully get some benefit to make some additional improvements to the building that would bring it into further compliance or at the storefront level, because they're interested in doing some of those things. And then we can return with whatever they plan to do with the building, be it seismic or historic rehab at the storefront level, and have that discussion again. And if they want to delay going to council with the upgrade to have those conversations, you know, we can certainly do that. But I wouldn't want to delay them because we do have a tentative date of June 22nd for this category.
Sure. I think that my feeling is that before we move up to category 1, we'd need to look at the awning and some other minor architectural changes that would make a difference. But so I think it's up to the applicant. If they want to postpone it, we can certainly figure out a way to put this back on our agenda to move it up to category 1. I don't see that what action we take today will preclude another hearing to change the category again from 2 to 1. So, all right,
David,
Debbie?
can I just
Yes.
Can I just say before you take a vote that we need to make sure the public is invited to comment if there's anyone to comment on this item. Did we get any requests?
I had that on my list after the board discussion. Vin, you can look and see if anyone any public member would like to speak, if they could use the raise your hand feature after we have this discussion, we'll hear those comments. So Debbie, do you have any comments or discussion?
No, I don't at this time.
Okay, Mike, how about you?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Margaret's comments that we should look further at a category 1. I think the motion should contain some wording that the board strongly recommends further consideration for a higher upgrade to a category 1. I think that should be in the motion.
Okay, Kristen, any discussion?
I agree with Mike's suggestion.
Okay, I can't see Martin, but Martin, do you have any further comments?
No further comment.
Okay, Vin, do we have any members of the public who would like to speak to us on this item?
Yes, we do. We have one raised hand from John. If there's anyone else who wants to speak on this item, please raise your hand now. The raise hand button is at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're calling in from a phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. John, I will unmute you now so you can speak.
Thank you, Vin. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome, John.
Hey, thank you, Chair Bauer and HRB. Thank you guys for looking at this. I'm a big fan and a big supporter of the Cardinal Hotel. I'm so grateful that like many other owners, but like the Thwaites family, the Dahls have just been great caretakers of this asset for so many decades. And I applaud and support their application today, to move to a category 2. I understand y'all's interest and support of even going to a 1. It is a fantastic asset for the downtown. I just want to point out that, these kinds of moves and such have lots of implications and issues and costs that the owners need to figure out. And to not do anything that's going to tie their hands, especially in today's economy and, COVID-19, and they're a hotel and all of these things. I would hope, and I don't know exactly what I'm speaking to, Amy would be the guru, but really I would just hope you all approve this so that it opens up their avenue for some financing vehicles to help them continue to maintain and analyze projects to enhance the project, enhance the building in the years to come. I just wanted to voice a very strong level of support, where the Thwaites family owns buildings across the street, as well as throughout the downtown. And it was fun, by the way, to see in the historic analysis, some of the Thwaites family members mentioned in there for their contributions and activities on neighboring buildings there on Ramona. I don't know, 100 years ago. But anyway, I think it's fantastic, and I applaud the Dahls and Stephanie as their manager on the asset to undertake this and explore it, because it's a great step toward preserving our downtown. I'll thank you all there, and hope you vote yes. Thanks.
Thanks, John, for your sharing and spending time with us today. If we have no further public comments, Vin?
Chair Bauer, that concludes the public comments for this item.
Okay, well, let's move on to crafting a motion. I don't think it has to be complicated. Anyone want to step up to that? Wow, don't raise your hands all at once. Well, I can start, and then you can tell me if you can let me know if there are things I'm missing. I would say that I move that we recommend that the council reclassify the building from a Category 3 to a Category 2 building on the Palo Alto Historic Resource Inventory, and would encourage the building's owners to consider a further request at a future date to change from a Category 2 to a Category 1. But that is not contingent on this particular approval. How's that, Amy? Do you think that's clear?
Yes, I think that works. Certainly, you know, I hear the motion, and I think there's something we can do to take a look at the Ramona district and see, you know, how many of those buildings are Category 1 versus Category 2 individually. And I can get a report back to the HRB to help help the board with their deliberation for next steps if the applicant wishes to go with Category 1.
Great. I want to be very clear for the minutes, that it's an encouragement to change from Category 2 to Category 1. It is not a requirement, and is not I don't want the owners to feel like they are being pushed to do something they're uncomfortable with. Because as John just mentioned, there are many implications of changing categories. Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mike, you're second. Is there any further discussion, or are we ready to vote? I don't see any further discussion. So I'll just go right down the line, ask people to vote yes in favor or no, not in favor. Kristen?
Yes.
Kristen? Okay.
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Okay, and I also am a yes, so that's a unanimous 6 votes for changing this. I want to thank all the people who have participated in this, staff, and of course the applicants and the applicants' consultants. It was a very thorough review, and when you see me looking down, I'm actually looking on my iPad at the very long 100-page reports. I'm not reading my phone, but it helps to be able to see that. I can't do that on my computer. Okay, so thank you for that. Thank you for all that have participated. Let's move on to item number 3. And I will read. This is 488 University Avenue, the hotel president. So this is a public hearing, quasi-judicial, the hotel president at 488 University Avenue, 19 PLN-00038. It's a review of proposed building modifications for compliance with Secretary of Interior standards. It's architectural review application to modify a local inventory Category 2 resource, including interior and exterior renovations to convert residentially used spaces to hotel use. The building is considered a legal, non-complying facility and is eligible for listing on the California Register of Historic Resources. Environmental assessment, California Environmental Quality Act exempt per guidelines 15301 for existing structures, 15302 for reconstruction, and 15331 for restoration of the historic resource. For more information, contact the project planner, Sheldon Singh, at SAHSING at m-bridge.org. group.us. Let me just stop there. Amy, is that correct direction for people who want more information about the project?
Excuse me, at this time, excuse me, frog in the throat. We are transitioning from our consultants due to budget concerns. So I would just say, if you have questions, you can email them to me, amy.french@cityofpaloalto.org. Jody and I are working with transitioning to another staff member.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I wanted to say at this juncture that the Historic Resources Board is only evaluating the changes to an historic property. This is a controversial project. We are not, our purview does not include the change from a residential structure to a commercial structure. That's not what we're here to talk about, and I'd appreciate it if the public did not focus on that or discuss that. We're here and willing and interested in listening to all public comments about the historic resources that this particular building possesses and the changes that are discussed. So let's start with disclosures. I will say I have toured the building with the project architect and the owner and the local project manager in, I don't know, the last 6 months. Kristen?
Hi, I also had a tour, as you have, of the property.
Debbie?
I also had a tour.
Okay, Margaret?
No, sadly, I didn't participate in the tour, but I did go to a presentation that was at the Ilfreniyo courtyard about a good year ago.
Okay, Martin, any disclosure? You're muted. I presume Martin has no disclosure since he's not speaking up, and Mike is currently out of the room. I'll circle back around and ask him afterwards. All right, let's just move on to the staff report. Amy, or whomever.
Yes, I will be giving the report. So the President Hotel, or Hotel President, was built in 1930 as the largest and most modern hotel in Palo Alto at the time. It's an existing local resource inventory category 2 as a major building in the Spanish colonial revival style. Our consultant, Page and Turnbull, has evaluated this and found it to be eligible for the California Register of Historic Resources under Criterion 1, events, and Criterion 3, architecture. Of course, the master architect for Palo Alto, Burge Clark, designed this building. And it was associated with President Hoover back then. And it did extend University Avenue. It was an early mixed-use building at the time. Those are the reasons it's eligible for California Register. As well, the character-defining features conveying the historic identity are evident in the building today. We have some lovely older photos here showing the older cars, etc. So fun to see these photos. The lobby in the President Hotel back in the 1930s and 40s is shown in these images. The lobby is still there today. The non-complying features are that the height of the building exceeds the city's 50-foot maximum, and the maximum for the zone, the CDC-GF-P. And the FAR, floor area ratio, also exceeds the maximum for the district at 50,540 square feet. That's part of the project. The University Avenue area, the basement, does proceed into the right-of-way on University Avenue below grade, below the sidewalk, 9 feet. And the marquee entry also protrudes into that University Avenue right away, and as well, the 6th floor balcony comes out just a bit at 2 foot 7 inches. There's beautiful entrance details shown on the right that are still existent. The President Hotel plans to convert 75 dwelling units to 100 hotel rooms. And it did start its life out as a hotel, but now we have a council decision that would make that decision for reasons that I could get into later if requested. The project does reduce the floor area ratio from 5.42 to 5.36. The garage that's proposed to handle some of the parking there would employ tandem spaces and would use a valet system. The elevator that's proposed would reach a height of 90 feet to enable public use of the rooftop, which is currently there and was there back in the 40s, as you can see on the image to the right. And then there are the interior and exterior renovations that are proposed. I list them here, but the applicant will probably will be presenting more thoroughly on these. So they're a combination of preservation, rehabilitation, and restoration. Excuse me. The code that is applicable to the exempt floor area, which is proposed, is 1818-060E. And I have that later after the presentation if anyone wants to see that in writing. The California Register eligibility for this is great because it allows use of the State Historic Building Code. I believe it's already enabled to be used, and this could come in handy. Packet page 110 to 113 presents the Secretary of Interior Standards compliance analysis of for this project that's proposed with the architectural review application. And it describes why the property retains 5 of the 7 aspects of integrity. And I note them here: settings and materials, and then conveying the significance under those period of significance features. So just one note, there is a discussion in the staff report about the lobby. There's some openings proposed in the lobby wall, which do not fully comply with standards 2 and 9. But because those are reversible, you know, opening a wall can be closed at some point. It's reversible and therefore can be determined consistent with standard 10. So that was one note. So we come to the recommendation and next steps. The HRB is requested to confirm the building's eligibility for individual resource listing on the California Register. And we had a peer review to check, review the page intervals work on that. And also for the HRB to confirm the project's consistency with the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, also confirmed through our consultant. We do believe that this project does not result in a CEQA impact to the historic resource. So then the next steps would be council would consider a waiver under this code section noted to convert the residential units over to non-residential hotel rooms. The council will also consider the HRB's recommendation on the architectural review application. And this is the downtown part of the code in chapter 1649 that has these projects going to the HRB for recommendation. And then the council will also consider the conditional use permit for the elevator access for the public and then service of alcohol. I think that concludes the presentation. So thank you. And I know the applicant wishes to present their application.
Good. So that's just what I was going to come to next. Vin, can you facilitate the applicant's access?
Yeah, so is it going to be Alex or a different person?
while we're waiting, Mike, before I asked the board if there were any disclosures and you weren't available to answer.
Yes, I have a disclosure. I did receive a tour by the project applicants sometime in March. I can't remember the exact date, but they took us completely through the building at that time.
Right, thank you. Okay, Vin, do we have the applicant up?
Yes, Alex.
Yes, good morning.
You're unmuted.
Yeah,
okay,
can you guys
Alex,
hear me?
I can
This is
see
Alex.
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay, great. And Vin, I don't know if you're controlling the PDF, but I'm going to speak to the first 3 slides and then turn it over to Gino, who will finish the presentation.
So this is Jody and I will be controlling the slides. Can you see the first one now?
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks.
Okay.
Hey, good morning, Jody. Yeah, perfect. Can we go to slide 2? Perfect, thank you. All right, well, good morning, Chairman Bauer and HRB members. I'm Alex Stanford, and on behalf of my colleagues at AJ Capital and project team joining today's virtual hearing, including Gino Yoon, principal at ELS Architecture, Christina Dykes, associate principal and senior architectural historian at Page & Turnbull, and Steve Emsley, partner at Lighthouse Public Affairs. We are excited to present our restoration and rehabilitation plan for the hotel president. Jody, if you don't mind just going to slide 3. Great. As Amy mentioned, designed by the renowned Bursch Clark, the iconic Spanish colonial revival style building established the commercial corridor of University Avenue when it first opened to guests in 1930. Unfortunately, as many of you witnessed during tours earlier this year, the building has suffered from decades of deferred maintenance and is in urgent need of restoration and upgrades to critical infrastructure, including a seismic retrofit, installation of sprinkler and fire alarm systems, and accessibility improvements. Our design team has worked to integrate the code required life safety modernization without compromising the rehabilitation and preservation of the building's character defining features, which Gino will now highlight. Gino?
All right, give me 1 second to put Gino on the line. Okay, Gino, if you can unmute yourself, you may speak.
Okay, I believe I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
You
Yes,
are,
we can.
Gino. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you. And good morning, board members and staff. As Alex mentioned, there are 3 items of importance that are critical on the scope of the project that I need to sort of mention and elaborate on that are not necessarily historic, but nonetheless improves the accessibility and safety of the project. One being the voluntary seismic upgrade of the entire structure. That also enhances the historic assets lifetime and usability of the building. So that is a very important item to mention for this historic asset. As well as the fully fire sprinklering of the building that would help prevent the spread of any sort of devastating fires in the building. So that's an improvement that the owners are voluntarily inserting into the project. The last being the accessible and gurney-sized elevator that we are installing in addition to preserving the historic elevator. So this new elevator is going to provide access from the basement all the way up to the roof garden that is being preserved. Jody, next slide, please. So there are a number of historic key character defining features in the project, and I'll just kind of mention them here, but elaborate in the next few slides. Being a Bursch Clark building, we are thrilled to be part of this project. It's a classic example of a Bursch Clark structure and design. The stucco building is a character defining feature that we're going to be preserving and enhancing with both facade improvements for repairs on the exterior, as well as a paint color scheme that will enhance the overall composition of the building. We're preserving the wood gallery at the top floor, the 6th floor, which are actual functioning balconies that face University Avenue. Classic example of how to draw interest to the top of the building and yet enhance the proportions of the overall mass. All the steel sash windows we're preserving, repairing and painting. The Juliet balconies that are on the 2nd floor at the ends of the buildings we're preserving and repairing as necessary. The storefronts on the ground floor, there are a number of storefronts that are not historically correct, and so we are proposing to replace those to match the ones that are correct, and I'll show you a little bit more of that later. On the inside of the building, there is what was formerly the Pluto's restaurant and kitchen. That space is going to be converted into a registration lobby and connected to the main hall entrance that will be preserving as well. And as mentioned earlier by Amy, the item of how we open up to that space, I'll touch on a little bit later. And then the kitchen of Pluto's is the former lounge that was part of the lobby that was actually shown in an earlier image a couple of slides previous. That is a beautiful space, wood beamed ceilings, fireplace. We're proposing to remove the kitchen and expose the wood beam ceilings, which we've investigated as being still intact. Unfortunately, the fireplace is no longer there, but for the most part, we will try to preserve the spirit of what that lounge used to be. And then finally, rehabilitate the rooftop garden, have access to it, and preserve the ability to go up there for enjoying the views. Next slide, please. So this slide sort of goes into the details of what we're proposing in terms of color scheme, keeping a light body, cream body color for the paint on the stucco, enhancing the wood features with the darker color that you see there. I can't read that, but it's, I think Blacktop is the name of the paint. And then anything steel, we're proposing to use a little bit lighter color called Southern Vine. And so the combination of the darker and lighter colors helps enhance the definition of the features, as well as bringing interest to the elements and enhancing the light body of the stucco building. Next slide, please. So here we get into a little bit more detail of the storefront improvements. You can see we've identified 3 bays of storefronts that are non-historic and being proposed to be removed and replaced with more historically correct storefronts, bulkheads, ceramic tile mosaics. We've identified the maker of the original tiles, and so we'll be looking to contact them. I think the company is Stonelight Tile in San Jose, so we'll be going to the original supplier for the tile. Based on the Spurge-Clark detail of the entrance doors, we're proposing to rebuild the metalwork, the steel grates and scrollwork in the doors and sidelights and transom to then bring back the original intent of the entrance doors. Next slide, please. So this image here kind of highlights what we're proposing to do with the storefronts. The image on the left, the existing non-conforming or non-historic storefronts to be replaced with something like the image on the right, the tile pony walls, the metal and wood storefronts, and clear glass. Next slide. So in terms of the ground floor improvements, that hatched area A is the former Pluto's kitchen area. We're going to turn that into a lounge bar area, expose the ceiling, create some more historic enhancements that would be consistent with the character of the time and the design. Item B is the historic elevator, which has some beautiful front door and cage elements that have been maintained superbly and work quite well today. And then the cab itself has some beautiful leather embossed paneling that will be cleaned and again enhanced to continue its life. Behind it, you can see the new elevator being proposed, and that's the larger gurney-sized accessible elevator that will go from the basement to the roof garden. And then item C is a central stair currently connecting the ground floor lobby to the mezzanine to level 2. And then from level 2 up to the roof, we're proposing to open up the stair to bring back to life the central stair connecting capabilities from floor to floor. Mentioned earlier, the opening between the main entrance hall and the previous Pluto space, that wall will be opened up to allow for programmatically connecting the entrance to the registration lounge area. But we see the value in preserving the original nature of a hall entrance, and the ceiling beamwork that is currently existing there will be preserved and will also highlight the individual nature of the two spaces. But we do want to be able to have that connectivity between once you enter and going to the registration desk. So the wall itself will be opened up. And as Amy mentioned earlier, if in the future it needed to be restored to an independent hall space, that could be closed up quite easily. Next slide. And then finally, up on the roof, the rooftop garden, we're enhancing the usability with pavers and plants and planters, adding some bathrooms and exit circulation and mechanical systems up there. So again, preserving and bringing back to life the rooftop garden that was there originally. So I think that concludes my presentation. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Gino. If you'll hang on with us for a few minutes, I think I'd like to see if any of the public would like to comment on this project at this point. After that, we can, pardon me, come back to the board. Board can ask questions of the applicant, and then we can move forward with our deliberations. Vin, any public members? Actually, let me just say, any public members of the public that would like to speak, please use the raise your hand feature down at the center bottom of your screen.
Chair Bauer, we don't have any raised hands at the moment. Let's give everyone maybe 10 seconds or so to see if anyone wants to raise their hand.
Well, let's do this. Let's move on to board questions for the applicant, and then I'll come back to the public comments after we finish that.
Sure.
Okay, so board members, in any order, questions? Margaret, I see you raise your hand.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to ask about the historic tile, because the historic tile is certainly a character defining feature of the project, both on the inside and the outside. And in a past project where the Palo Alto toy store had tile, there was a subcommittee that really studied and approved the historic tile that was there was just a small amount of it in comparison to this project. I just wanted to learn more from the applicant. How are you removing all of the tile? Because it's on the interior floor. There's shaped tile as baseboards throughout the project. I kind of wanted for you to speak more about your intent on what, are you removing all of the tile? Are you removing some of the tile? And I know that I just looked up Stonelight, and I think that's a great manufacturer that can make replica tiles, but I just wanted to understand better what your proposals are for how much are you removing, and can you just speak a little bit more to that?
Sure, I can answer that question. First of all, we're not proposing to remove any tile. Anything that's on the floor currently or on the walls, we're proposing to leave. We're still in the process of evaluating the impact of the structural upgrades, and if there's a wall surface that needs structural enhancement that happens to have tile on it today, we would replace it with new tile once the structural enhancement is complete. But as of right now, we don't foresee that being necessary. The only tile that it should be clear in our package that we're proposing to add is where we're replacing the non-historic storefronts with ones to replicate the historic. So that's where I'm talking about installing new tile in a new storefront.
Okay, thank you, Gino. Christian, you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
I have a question regarding the seismic rehab that you plan on doing. What are the impacts of the seismic rehab as far as intruding into the historic fabric of the building? Many times these things end up being a lot of beam work that ends up being installed in some of these historic buildings and does tend to compromise some of the original historic fabric. So could you comment on that, please?
Sure. And, you know, as I'm looking at the drawings that we had submitted, I'm afraid we were neglect in showing or fully representing where the impacts are for the seismic upgrades in the storefronts on the ground floors. So I'll try to describe them verbally for you. If you go to our drawings, the elevation of the entire building on the University Avenue side, Amy or Jody?
Oh, it's Jody is operating those.
Can we bring up that elevation?
Yeah, it'll take me a minute to pull those up.
Okay. Basically, there's going to be quite a bit of concrete work, both in the shear wall that surrounds the new elevator core, and then some overlay work on the existing concrete in the building. So the entire perimeter envelope of the building is concrete. And so we'll thicken up some of that concrete going up the building. On the ground floor, though, in the storefronts, we're going to be inserting a couple of steel brace frames. And so where you'll see that is on the corner of Cowper and University, that elevation, that storefront bay, you'll see a couple of steel angle braces in the storefront, as well as in the westernmost storefront, the existing tobacconist tenant will have a steel brace frame in their storefront as well. So in those cases, you will see a bit of structure behind the glass. And other than that, it shouldn't be impacting the existing perimeter of the building as far as what you see from the outside.
I had just another question. You talked about shear wall additions. Are you planning on using like shotcrete and then reinforcing rebar to get the shear wall?
That's correct. For the perimeter of the building with the existing concrete, we'll be adding shotcrete with rebar. For the new elevator core, we'll have a new concrete shear wall. So Jody, if you go to A301.
3.
There you go. So if you can zoom in on that top elevation there, you can see the angled braces that are dashed in the storefronts, both on the left bay and the right bay.
So those are quite intrusive into the facade of the first floor then?
They're behind the glass, so they're not part of the facade, but they will be visible.
Uh-huh.
Any other questions, Mike?
Not at the present time, but I'm taking it all in and thinking about it.
Okay, well, we can come back. Debbie, how about you? Questions?
Is it appropriate to comment here or later?
Let's comment in our discussion.
Thank you.
Okay, no questions then. Margaret?
Are you calling on me?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I actually had a subsequent question. I wanted to, maybe it's not a question, but just a comment. I hope that you are taking into consideration all the HVAC requirements that a building like this will have. Like a lot of times buildings have to have rooftop, you know, big steel boxes for chillers and coolers and compressors and things like that. And I just wanted to, I know that on the existing building in the corner restaurant space, and there's a photo on the page in Turnbull, the packet page 128 that I'm looking at, and it's there seems to be 2 window style AC units that are up in the transom. I mean, I'm sure you're going to remove those, but just the fact that I just wanted to point out, sometimes there are some consequences to having to introduce the HVAC system in these buildings. So hopefully you're being mindful of where these necessary components occur. And I'm sure you're going to take those out of there.
Yes.
All right. Let's see, Martin, I see you're back on, you're unmuted. Do you have any questions for the applicant? Go ahead.
Yes. First, I'd like to disclose that I was given a tour of the building from Alex Stanford and Pablo David. That was on February 21st. And nothing was discussed with any decision making. It was just a tour of the existing. Gino, hello, Gino. Can you hear me? Second.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, thank you, Gino. Martin Bernstein, a member of the Historic Resources Board. Have you considered reinstalling the Hotel President rooftop sign?
Oh, wouldn't that be great? We would love to.
Yeah, so I would like to see that if that's a possibility to include in your project. Other question would be the let's see, you mentioned the ground floor, but then the floor plans call the ground floor or first floor. Is the first floor what is up above the ground floor, or is first floor ground floor? I'm just, because I heard you mention ground floor, and then the building plans call it first floor.
Yes, sorry.
So when we talk about, yeah.
Sorry for any confusion. The first floor and the ground floor are the same. It's the same level as what you would enter off University Avenue.
Okay, thank you for that. Because I know on City Hall, ground floor is the ground floor, and then up above is the first floor. So, okay, yes. All right, thank you for that. It's the other question is you mentioned the glass storefronts where the tile, where there's existing non-historic windows there. That'd be refrained. My next question refers to also to Board Member Wimmer's comment. We've had several Birch Clark projects downtown Palo Alto where there is new tile put into place. You may be familiar with the Secretary of Interior standards that we need to review today's project with about the idea of compatibility and differentiation so that someone knows what was original and what's not original. So that'll be coming up probably during our discussion about compatibility and differentiation of new tile that gets installed on the project. Let's see, my other comment would be on the, I guess we'll call it the 6th floor, the upper floor with the wood little balusters up there. That's 6th floor, is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, yes. Yeah, 6th floor. Let's see, I think those the guards up there, the wood guards, are below the current 42-inch high requirement. Have you considered, I didn't see any details on the ELS plans to do some detail so that you meet the 42-inch high guard. I didn't see that on the plans. So if that's going to be modified to meet that safety issue, because you mentioned safety several times, I'm glad you're saying that. So that would be a street-facing facade. So the HRB would need to review that detail. I didn't see it on the ELS drawings. So so that'd be something else to be discussed when we get into discussion. Those are my comments for now. Thank you, Gino.
Thank you.
Okay, Gino, I'll pick this up with just a couple of additional questions. Remind me how the new elevator fits into the building. It doesn't, it's in some space that currently doesn't have significant historic fabric.
That's correct. It sits behind the existing historic elevator. It's, I believe it's going into what is currently Pluto's space. Yeah. And,
I know. So you could think about that as it travels up. I just can't remember. Actually, Jody, if you could get us to a floor plan, I don't know what page in the drawings that would be. Actually, just wait right here. Let me talk about something, the storefronts, since we're right at this page, and then we can maybe look at that or not. My next question was on the storefronts. It looks like those wood spindles, I presume they're wood spindles that are in the kind of covering the transom, are all original. Is that your understanding?
That's what we believe as well.
Yeah, okay. Now, the next issue about the recessed storefronts, which we have as a board reviewed a number of times, is that in the modernization of the downtown area, as you can see on this picture, it's not because this is a black and white picture in your plan, but on page 125 of the packet, you can see pictures of the storefronts. In some places, the concrete sidewalk moves right to the base of the tiled recesses, and others at the corner of Cowper and University Avenue, they've pulled that awful brick pattern which they put in the 70s right up to the building. So across the front of the building, there are different materials that are actually part of the public sidewalk going into the private property of this building. I'm just wondering, and so the reason I'm bringing this up is that when we reviewed the Palo Alto Sport and Toy World building, excuse me, on University Avenue, I'm sorry, Waverly Avenue, we actually asked them to put in a tile from the property line back to the recessed storefront, so it would be quite clear that the city right-of-way ended at the face of the building, and then the tiled areas would be private. And when I walked the downtown area, the few buildings that are unchanged that Burge Clark designed had tile in those spaces on the walking space between the property line and the recessed front. So I'm sorry to be so long-winded about this, but I think at some point you might want to consider how you're going to address that, especially if you have to take, I don't know, do you have a basement underneath the sidewalk in this building?
We do.
Yeah, I don't know what Public Works will do with that. They generally don't like it. But if you're doing work, I think it would be appropriate to have that differentiated line between the public right of way and the private property. And I think from a picture in the packet on, yeah, it's on packet page 129. It looks to me like the Pluto's restaurant kitchen space has relatively large windows in that area that look to me from your picture in the top right-hand corner of 120, page 129 of our packet, are original, and I presume those would be retained or just refurbished as needed.
Are you talking about windows on the alley side or on the University Avenue side?
No, on the alley side.
Yeah, we're not proposing to change anything on that side in terms of removal of any windows. We're proposing to insert a door from the new bar lounge area into the alley and then access from the kitchen into the alley, but we're not proposing to take out any windows.
Yeah, I think you're converting the kitchen into public space in the hotel. That's your proposal. So the reason I'm bringing that up is there you have natural light, even though it's alley light. There it is on the, I guess on the left-hand side of this page A304. It looks like there are windows there. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that. And then I guess that's it. That's all of my questions. So unless there are other board members have questions.
Yes, Chair Bauer, this is Mike again.
Mm-hmm.
Can we go back to the slide A301? Okay, my comment and question relates to the structural work that's being done on the two end storefronts. You can see one on the west side and one on the north side. My question and request would be if your structural engineer can redesign those diagonal braces with moment frames so we do not see the structure from the window.
Yeah, we've taken a very deep dive look into various options for supporting this building. And because it is almost a top heavy soft story condition where you can imagine this exterior wall is all cast in place concrete. So in the elevation, there are punched windows at the guest room floors, but the ground floor is all glass with the exception of the columns. So a moment frame would not work in this location. It does require something much beefier and stiffer. Therefore, the brace frames are the only thing that actually does work.
Well, then my other comment would be if it turns out the brace frames are the only way you can go, is there any way you can use to disguise those somewhat so they're not so aesthetically obvious?
My approach was going to be that we were going to paint them dark in color so that what happens is it recedes into the depths of the space, and the light colored body of the plaster is really what your eye notices with the openings of each of the bays. The storefront glass presumably would have a darker level of illumination. So you don't really notice it as much. I think if it were a light color, it would really pop. So that's our approach is, you know, it's not unusual to see steel braces in older buildings, and some are more obvious than others. And this is our attempt and best effort to diminish its impact on the overall building.
Okay, but you have done a detailed analysis, and you believe the moment frame will not be sufficient?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, not seeing any other questions from board members. Let's go back to see if we have any public comments on this project. If you want to, if any member of the public would like to make a comment, please use the Zoom raise your hand function. Again, that's at the bottom of your screen in the middle. It'll say participants, click on that, and then there's an opportunity to raise your hand. Dan, you see anyone?
Chair Bauer, we still have no raised hands, so I think we can proceed with.
Okay. So with that, I think we'll close the public hearing and bring this back to the board for discussion and creation of a motion.
Chair Bauer?
Martin, go ahead.
Yes, another question for Gino. I see on sheets A201 and 401, the wall that's being removed between the lobby and the adjacent space, that wall will include 2 new arches. Is that correct?
It will include 2 new openings. We're not quite sure what the exact shape is yet because you know, that was shown as a placeholder. We understand, you know, in terms of the existing historic personality of the building, both on the inside and the outside, there aren't a lot of arches per se. So we need to study that further, but there will be 2 openings. Okay,
the reason I mentioned that is on the historic resources report on the standards for compatibility, it does mention it for standard number 2. It says the proposed improvement retains the dividing wall substantially, includes arched openings that are consistent with the architectural theme of the building. But as you just mentioned, if there aren't very many arches, I guess the HRB will see then what detail you propose to eventually build, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, David.
Sure, Martin. Any other comments before we close the public meeting?
Just one further comment. This is Mike again.
Mm-hmm.
What are your plans for the original elevator? Are you going to modernize the controls or the whole elevator? Or can you elaborate on that?
Well, the current functioning elevators has been beautifully maintained. So there's nothing mechanically wrong with it. You know, everything works smoothly. I think we would just clean up things that needed to be cleaned or repaired. But as of right now, we're not proposing any changes.
Yeah, it's got a nice historic ambiance when you get into it. You feel like you're back in the 20s.
Yes.
Debbie, did you have a question?
I just had a comment. I wanted to step back for a moment and just for the record say that I think we are so fortunate. This particular development and hotel management company is unique, I believe, in its emphasis on going into university communities and restoring historic property. They have a strong track record in doing this in the United States, and I believe now also in England. And particularly in light of the downturn that we're looking at, I think that this opportunity to showcase a building as important as this one and to use it to generate street traffic, to support retail, to support restaurants, to support gyms, I think we are very fortunate. Thank you.
That's a very good point. We're not clear. I don't think any of us are clear what we're going to be looking at in the future as we try to climb out of this pandemic. But we hope, I mean, this is a really significant effort by this company to not only preserve a building that is largely untouched. I mean, in need of renovation, certainly, but it has not been stripped like many buildings of its age have been. So thanks for that comment. All right, let's, I'm gonna close the public hearing now and let's discuss as a board how to craft a motion to move this project forward. Anyone wanna lead off?
I wanted to share something that when Martin was mentioning the rooftop sign, it reminded me that I have this, I bought this painting. I'm gonna try to show it to you.
Oh yeah.
So this is a painting, a watercolor that I bought at like, I think it was like an estate sale or at a garage sale, but it's, sorry, it's reflecting, but it's a picture of the President Hotel. And I don't know if you can see the rooftop sign that it's suggesting that it says hotel and then it says PR. So, I mean, there's no absolute verification that this is in fact the President Hotel, but I just thought that was kind of a neat thing I had. I just wanted to share that. I don't know how well you can see that, but.
Well, we can see the the hotel in reverse, and then you can see the PR on the other. Looks
yeah,
like
I just thought that was a neat thing. I wanted to share that. Sorry about all the reflections.
Very nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
That's
so,
Martin?
Chair Bauer?
Yeah, go
Chair
ahead,
Bauer?
Martin. Go ahead, Martin.
So Amy, will this project come back to the HRB as the project moves ahead?
This is the formal hearing before the HRB. So it would not, unless there's a condition that, or unless the council refers this back to the HRB for further study, or there's a condition that's placed to return, such as we did with the Toy and Sport World, to look at the, paving tiles or such,
right.
To have a subcommittee or come back to the HRB for something like that.
Okay. Chair Bauer, I'm ready to make a motion unless you want to have other HRB members give comments first.
Debbie has a comment, and then I'll call on you again, Martin. Debbie?
Okay.
I just wanted to follow on that because I would very much like to see this come back to the HRB around the issue of the tile on the facade and on the sidewalk.
Okay, I was going to suggest we form a subcommittee for those recessed spaces in the tile, both on the facade and the sidewalk, just so we could look at it. That can be a subcommittee. I think, as Amy said, like we did at the Sport and Toy World. I can't remember the address, sorry, never can. But that will allow the project to move forward, and then they can just check back with a subcommittee. And we can put into that subcommittee anything that the board members feel we should be looking at in the future. I think we ought to be looking at what that arch or opening is in the form of it in the entrance. We could add that to this so we could see it. So I think we want to look at the tile in the recess entries and maybe that. Anything else somebody would like to thinks we should be looking at?
Do you think maybe just taking a glance at the colors? I know that they're suggesting colors, but maybe do a brush out and have the board be able to look at colors. And colors will also need to be in consideration of the tile because that's all an exterior color palette.
Sure, we could do that. I think that color tends to be a less important, less important issue for us, but it could easily, I think, and quickly be done altogether. I just don't want to add a lot of things to this so that the project can't move forward should this meet other hurdles that they have to overcome. So I'm open to that if the board feels that that's appropriate. So let's go back to Martin. Martin, would you like to make a motion?
Chair Bauer,
Yes,
if I
thank
may.
you.
Hold on, Martin. Jody.
We do have a raised hand on the attendee side.
Oh, okay. Then Vin, if you can make connect that person for us, we can. It's a public comment, I presume.
I think you closed the hearing public comment portion, so you'd have to reopen that maybe.
Okay, so yeah, I'll reopen it so we can hear its comment.
Pablo, I see you actually lowered your hand, but I'm gonna unmute you anyway to see if you had any public comments.
It was
Pablo.
Hello.
Can you hear
me?
Yes.
Yes. It was more a point of information. I'm part of the applicant group, and so this wouldn't preclude us from moving forward, correct? The subcommittee.
No, it wouldn't, although you would not be able to move forward on the actual finishes that the subcommittee would look at. You would certainly be able to move the project forward. This the way that the subcommittee has worked in the past is it looks at when you get ready to do like color brush outs, you'd present those on the building. We'd look at them and say, yeah, this looks okay. This is consistent, whatever. Tiles, same way. This is differentiated but compatible. So it's way into the project. I mean, you could do it earlier, but typically it's actually during construction.
Understood. Thank you so much for the clarification, Chairman.
Okay, good. Vin, are there any other comments?
There are no more comments for this item.
Okay, closing the public hearing, bring it back to Martin if you want to make a motion.
Yes, thank you, Chair Bauer. I'd like to move that the HRB confirms that the project as presented is consistent with the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, and that the HRB form a subcommittee that when it's appropriate for the project to present to HRB subcommittee the proposed new tile that gets installed on the University Avenue facade. That the HRB also be presented with the proposed any proposed changes or modifications to the 6th floor guard to comply with the safety issue of the 42-inch high guardrail, and that the HRB also be presented with the any color paint brush outs, and let's see, and then also to encourage the applicant to consider reinstalling a replica of the hotel president sign. That'd be my motion as I'm thinking about it right now.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Amy, do you have all those subcommittee items written down?
I do, but I wanted to take the opportunity to say there was two things. Another that you mentioned about if we could have the arch opening penetrations in that lobby wall as part of some sort of look.
Yes, I would like to. Yes, I would like to include that as my also a subcommittee to look at that detail. Yes, thank you, Amy.
You're welcome. And then the final opportunity I would say is to, after this piece of it, is to concur, if you will, as a board with the California Register eligible piece of this, because that would be nice to note.
Yes, I'll. Yes, part of my motion is that the HRB agrees that it meets the California Register requirements.
Okay, good. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so Mike and Debbie both offered. I'll let Debbie be the second because Mike, you've already done the second.
Okay.
So Debbie has seconded this. Is there any discussion, further discussion board wants to have about this particular motion? So I would like to say that I am very pleased that we are able to review a project like this, which will rehabilitate and give a significant extension of the life of this building and the public access to this building at a really difficult time in this country economically. And so I hope this project moves forward, and I hope that we have been helpful as a board in encouraging the council to move this forward from the historic resources perspective.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's go around. I'll just go around the screen and ask for those, if you agree and support this, it's a yes. If you don't, it's a no. Let's start with Christian. You're up first.
Yes.
Okay, Christian says yes. Mike?
Yes.
Okay, Debbie?
Yes.
Okay, Margaret?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Okay, and I also am a yes. So that is a unanimous board, and I wish the applicants well in moving this forward and hope it still works for them financially. Okay, we now move to the end of our meeting. I think we can do this relatively quickly. Next item up is approval of minutes. So Amy, you want to have
oh, sure. I know we already dealt with the reports from officials. I wanted to have a note about training opportunities, maybe after the minutes.
Yeah, I have something to say, announcements and comments section about that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so approval of minutes. There is an opportunity for the public to comment on this. Vin, if any member of the public would like to comment on the approval of the minutes, please use the raise your hand part of Zoom application. Vin, do you see anyone?
We have no speakers for this item.
Okay, so let's move on. Any changes or additions or deletions to the minutes for, what is it? Wait, what's the date, Amy, on the minutes? I'm sorry, I don't have them in front of me.
April 9.
Oh, that's right, April 9th meeting. Any changes or deletions or additions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes as so stated.
Okay. Mike has moved to approve them. Second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Margaret seconds. I don't think there's any other comment. You do the same routine again. Christian, yes, approve? No?
Yes.
Okay, Mike?
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
And Martin? Martin, you there? He's muted right now. I'll vote yes as well. Well, maybe we're waiting. Martin?
Yes.
Okay, yes. All right, so it's unanimous. Okay, let's move on to the next item. There are no subcommittee items, but so I'll move to announcements and comments. I would like to congratulate Debbie, who has been appointed as one of 9 members of the community stakeholder group for the San Juan Residential District Historic Survey and Development Standards Study. The committee is going to review the residential properties on Stanford campus. There are only 9 members, and I'm pleased that Debbie is going to be on that committee and representing all of Santa Clara County with the other 8 members. I wanted to also point out that next week, well, let me start by saying May is Historic Preservation Month. And when I Googled that, I saw a number of really interesting opportunities to celebrate historic preservation across the country online because of the pandemic stay-at-home orders. So it is a wonderful opportunity, if you have the time and you're staying at home, to enjoy the many, many examples of historic preservation in the country. And along that line, next week the California Preservation Foundation will conduct its annual conference entirely online. There's a reduced rate of $150 for the whole program for any member. And as I think all of us know, there are lots of opportunities to hear from experts on historic preservation. So I encourage you to take advantage of that reduced price and no travel. Amy, you want to add something to that?
I will see you there, Nicole Loriella, who is training up to help us on the historic program. She and I are both attending, and I know that a couple of other board members are already signed up for that. You do have to register, but it is a good deal. And as you said, no hotel stays required.
No travel. So anyone who wants information about the annual conference, you go to California Preservation. That's all one word. So californiapreservation.org. You get to their website and then just follow their tabs for registration. So any board members have anything else they'd like to add? Debbie?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little detail about the community stakeholder group. I thought it might be helpful to let you know who else is participating in it. So I'm being joined by College Terrace resident Priya Graves, who serves on the Stanford Community Resources Group already. And then the additional members are, there's one from Stanford, the Director of Architecture, Sapna Marfadia. And then all of the others come from the neighborhoods themselves, from San Juan, Pine Hill, and Frenchman Hill. The neighbors have been notified. The group will hold their meetings virtually starting in about 3 weeks. And there will also be a series of public meetings and neighbors will be notified well in advance of that. Thank you.
Well, good. Congratulations to all those people. It's a really important survey, I think, for the Stanford campus. I spent a lot of time in my youth over there in those housing units. And there are three very distinct development eras in the San Juan Hill and then Pine Hill 1 and 2. Okay, anybody else have a comment? I'm not seeing any, so I will, with that, thank all of you for spending the time this morning. It's pretty hard to do this remotely. I mean, it's much more difficult than it is when we're in the council chambers, but thank you very much for your participation and all the hard work. And stay safe. See you at the next meeting.
David, I want to thank you for your leadership too.
Just you're welcome. I'm pleased to be able to do this at this tough time.
Yeah.
All right. Nice to see all of you. Thank you, staff, all the staff that's in the background.
Thank you.